You're listening to the CyberWire Network, powered by N2K.
No, it's not your imagination. Risk and regulation really are ramping up, and these days, customers expect proof of security before they'll even do business. That's where Vanta comes in. Vanta automates your compliance process and brings compliance, risk, and customer trust together on one AI-powered platform. So whether you're getting ready for a SOC 2 or managing an enterprise governance risk and compliance program, Vanta helps keep you secure and keeps your deals moving. Companies like Ramp and Ryder spend 82% less time on audits with Vanta. That means less time chasing paperwork and more time focused on growth. For me, it comes down to this. Over 10,000 companies, from startups to large enterprises, trust Vanta to help prove their security. Get started at vanta.com/cyber. Mythos leaks. The DoD preps a more aggressive cyber strategy. A former FBI cyber official urges homicide charges for hospital ransomware deaths. Lotus Wiper targeted the Venezuelan energy and utilities sector. Over 1,300 SharePoint servers remain unpatched against a spoofing vulnerability. The Harvester APT group deploys a new Linux version of its GoGra backdoor. A new LOTUSLITE backdoor targets India's banking sector. The Mirai botnet exploits discontinued routers. Our guest is Brian Vecci, Field CTO at Varonis, discussing how organizations can safely adopt AI and autonomous agents. And a satirical startup sells clean room clones. It's Wednesday, April 22nd, 2026. I'm Dave Bittner, and this is your CyberWire Intel Briefing. Thanks for joining us. It is great, as always, to have you with us. In news that should shock almost no one, a small group of unauthorized users gained access to Anthropic's unreleased Mythos AI model, despite the company's efforts to restrict it to vetted partners because of its potential cybersecurity risks. According to a person familiar with the situation and materials reviewed by Bloomberg News, the users accessed the model through a third-party contractor environment and online investigative techniques, including scanning unsecured resources like GitHub. Anthropic says Mythos can identify and exploit vulnerabilities across major operating systems and web browsers, which is why it's being distributed only through its limited Project Glasswing testing program. The company stated it's investigating the reported access and has no evidence that its core systems were affected. While the group reportedly used Mythos for benign experiments rather than cyber attacks, the incident highlights how difficult it can be to contain powerful AI tools and raises concerns about whether other unauthorized parties may also have access. Mozilla says Anthropic's Claude Mythos preview identified 271 vulnerabilities in Firefox, though only 3 received CVE designations in Firefox 150. Suggesting most were lower severity issues. Mozilla noted the bugs were within the reach of elite human researchers, not entirely novel flaw classes. Palo Alto Networks reported the model performed roughly a year's pen testing work in under 3 weeks, highlighting growing enterprise risk from advanced AI-driven security tooling. The Defense Department is preparing a new cyber strategy aimed at aligning military cyber operations with the Trump administration's more aggressive approach to digital adversaries. Officials say the plan will integrate cyber capabilities across all warfighting domains, strengthen operations below the threshold of armed conflict, and advance the Cyber Command 2.0 effort to modernize cyber forces. The strategy builds on the White House blueprint calling for expanded offensive and defensive cyber actions to impose costs on adversaries and improve coordination with the industry. Senior Defense Department officials told lawmakers a roughly $1.5 trillion budget request prioritizes expanded cyber forces and digital warfare capabilities to counter increasingly disruptive nation-state threats. The proposal includes $20.5 billion for cyberspace operations, supports the Cyber Command 2.0 restructuring effort, and funds zero-trust architecture and infrastructure protection. Officials said cyber is now central to military modernization and deterrence, alongside $58.5 billion for AI and command and control initiatives, while workforce shortages and organizational coordination remain ongoing challenges. A former FBI Cyber Division official urged the Justice Department to consider felony homicide charges when ransomware attacks on hospitals contribute to patient deaths, arguing penalties should match the severity of harm. Cynthia Kaiser also called for possible terrorism designations for groups that repeatedly target healthcare providers and urged Congress to restore funding for state and local cybersecurity programs facing cuts. Lawmakers and experts warned that reduced support for the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency could weaken ransomware defenses, citing workforce losses and the suspension of its pre-ransomware notification program, which previously warned thousands of organizations of imminent attacks and helped prevent billions in damages. Witnesses said continued funding, information sharing authorities, and defensive investments remain critical, despite some progress against ransomware threats in recent years. Researchers at Kaspersky warn that a previously undocumented wiper malware called Lotus Wiper has targeted the energy and utility sector in Venezuela in a destructive campaign likely intended to permanently disable systems. The attack used two batch scripts to weaken defenses, coordinate execution across networks, and retrieve the final payload, which deletes restore points, overwrites physical drives, and systematically erases files. The absence of ransom demands suggests a targeted, non-financial motive. Kaspersky reported no attribution but noted the activity coincided with regional geopolitical tensions in late 2025 and early this year. The execution chain relied on legacy Windows features and network-based triggers, indicating prior access and familiarity with the victim environment before deployment. More than 1,300 Internet-exposed Microsoft SharePoint servers remain unpatched against a spoofing vulnerability previously exploited as a zero-day and still used in active attacks. The flaw affects SharePoint Enterprise Server 2016, SharePoint Server 2019, and SharePoint Server Subscription Edition, and allows unauthenticated attackers to conduct network spoofing through improper input validation without user interaction. Successful exploitation could expose sensitive information and enable data modification, though not disrupt availability. Microsoft released patches this month, but Shadow Server reported limited remediation progress. CISA added the vulnerability to its known exploited vulnerabilities catalog and ordered federal civilian agencies to apply fixes within 2 weeks, warning the issue poses a significant risk to government networks and is a common attack vector. Researchers report that the Harvester Advanced Persistent Threat Group has deployed a new Linux version of its GoGra backdoor that uses Microsoft Graph API and Outlook mailboxes as covert command and control infrastructure to evade detection. Symantec linked the malware to earlier Windows campaigns based on shared code and identical errors, indicating expanding cross-platform tooling. The backdoor uses social engineering with disguised document files for delivery, persistence via systemd auto-start entries, and encrypted email-based tasking and data exfiltration. Initial samples were submitted from India and Afghanistan, consistent with Harvester's historical focus on South Asia. Analysts observed no confirmed victims but assessed the campaign as targeted espionage activity, leveraging legitimate cloud services to bypass perimeter defenses and maintain stealth. Researchers at Acronis identified a new LOTUSLITE backdoor variant targeting India's banking sector, delivered through DLL sideloading using a legitimate Microsoft-signed executable. The malware communicates with a dynamic DNS command and control server over HTTPS and supports remote shell access, file operations, and session control, indicating espionage activity rather than financial crime. Code similarities confirm continuity with earlier LOTUSLITE builds. Analysts assess moderate confidence links to Mustang Panda, noting a shift from earlier delivery methods and a geographic pivot from U.S. government targets to India's financial sector. The Mirai botnet is actively exploiting a command injection flaw in discontinued D-Link routers, according to Akamai. The vulnerability allows attackers to execute malicious commands through crafted post requests, enabling payload delivery via shell scripts with typical Mirai features such as XOR encoding and hard-coded infrastructure. The affected devices no longer receive updates, and D-Link has advised retiring them. Researchers also observed targeting of TP-Link and ZTE routers, highlighting continued widespread reuse of Mirai source code in opportunistic botnet campaigns. Coming up after the break, my conversation with Brian Vecci from Varonis. We're discussing how organizations can safely adopt AI and autonomous agents. And a satirical startup sells clean room clones. Stick around. Quick question. Have you watched Project Hail Mary yet? Humanity is facing an existential threat and racing to solve it with the clock ticking. For security teams, that probably hits close to home with AI use rapidly spreading. Everyone's using AI, marketing, sales, engineering. Chris the intern without security even knowing about it. That's where Nudge Security comes in. Nudge finds shadow AI apps, integrations, and agents on day one and helps you enforce policy without blocking productivity. Try it free at nudgesecurity.com/cyberwire. Maybe that's an urgent message from your CEO, or maybe it's a deepfake trying to target your business. Doppel is the AI-native social engineering defense platform fighting back against impersonation and manipulation. As attackers use AI to make their tactics more sophisticated, Doppel uses it to fight back, from automatically dismantling cross-channel attacks to building team resilience and more. Doppel, outpacing what's next in social engineering. Learn more at doppel.com. That's DOPPEL.com. Brian Vecci is field CTO at Varonis. I caught up with him at RSAC 2026 for this sponsored Industry Voices discussion about how organizations can safely adopt AI and autonomous agents. Before we dig into our topics here, how's the week been for you so far?
An absolute blur. I don't know how many hundreds, I think it's in the hundreds of customer meetings we have this week.
Wow.
This is my 15th or 16th or 14th, I don't know, something like that, RSAC.
Yeah.
They're always a blur. This one seems to be even more of a blur than the ones previously. That's both exciting and draining.
I can concur.
Yeah.
Well, AI is the hot topic.
Mm-hmm.
What's top of mind for you when it comes to AI's intersection with cybersecurity?
What's really interesting is we're kind of in a new phase of AI. Like, we started talking about AI and data security and how data security and AI security are so closely intertwined like 3 or 4 years ago. And what's interesting is the pace of change has accelerated. Now things change not in 6 decades or 6 years, but in 6 days. Things happen extremely quickly. The number of conversations that focus, I talk to security people, the chief information security officers and the architects and the AI security architects, and they're all in a position where their organizations, I don't want to use the word businesses because they're not all businesses. There's nonprofits, there's government organizations. Everybody has a mission though. There's something they want to accomplish, and their leaders, not the security leaders, the business leaders, the organizational leaders, they want to move more quickly than the security and governance capabilities can possibly keep up with. 3 years ago, it was conversations around how do we enable our workforce to use AI tools like Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT? Those days, like those questions and those issues are still relevant, but those are problems from 2 or 3 years ago. The problems today are, I'm now deploying thousands of agents. These agents are autonomous and non-deterministic, which is a fancy way of saying, I don't know what they're going to do, right? I'm going to define an agent to try to automate a business process, but these things, and I try to be careful about anthropomorphizing them too much. They don't make decisions, but they are non-deterministic in that you give them an input, like a prompt or an interaction with another agent or a system or a workflow. You can't predict what the output would be, which makes it fundamentally different from the user and application security than we've seen in the past. It's kind of an innovation gap where the need for governance and security controls, and governance is a problematic word. Governance is intent. Governance is not a control. It's not a capability. It's intent. I would like things to be governed. But the need for governance and security in order to enable this pace of change hasn't kept up. The other thing that's really interesting is that AI tools like ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot and Claude, which have become part of our daily lives at this point, they're extremely smart. They're extraordinarily capable because they've had the internet to learn from. Organizations are looking at that and saying, why can't we do that? Why can't I use AI? Not to replace my knowledge workers, but to make them dramatically more productive. And there's a really interesting answer to why not, why they can't. And it's because the public models, the AI tools that we have come to rely and depend on have access to the internet. Organizations can't build their own models or leverage agents because they're only the AI tools that they're using are only leveraging like 3% of their data. So they're not as smart and they're not as capable. Let me ask the question, why not? Why can't they use all of their data? There's 3 reasons. 1, organizations struggle to secure their data. If I unleash an agent without any kind of governance or access to my data, I'm introducing risk. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. Agents can get phished like human beings. They can be co-opted. So I need data security. That's a huge problem. Organizations struggle with data security. I know that because I've been working in data security for 16 years. The second thing is AI security. How are these agents and these models, and these code libraries and the tools that people are using, are they properly secured? Because if the answer is no, guess what? Somebody's going to put a big hand up and stop your AI usage. And the third thing is your adversaries have access to all of these same tools. Anthropic released a report in November talking about a almost completely automated AI hacking campaign. 80 to 90% of the work of reconnaissance, identifying targets, and then penetration and lateral movement, privilege escalation, all of the things that an attacker would normally do was handled by AI agents. And it was broken up into discrete parts. You put that together, the adversaries have these powerful tools as well, and they're innovating faster than security teams and organizations can possibly keep up. You put all of that together, there's an innovation gap from a security and a governance perspective, and organizations are unable to deploy these tools to keep up. It's stopping them from outpacing their competitors. It's stopping them from leveraging the benefits of what could be extraordinarily powerful tools. I may have just said 24 different things, and I hope all of that makes a little bit of sense. Those are the conversations that we're having this week.
I know it's a lot to take in, and there's no wonder why folks feel like their heads are spinning. I want to loop back to something you talked about, this kind of tension between the powers that be at the organization versus the security team, and the leadership, the business leaders saying we must go with full speed ahead with AI. To what degree do you think that is fear that their competitors are throwing caution to the wind with this and they're full speed ahead? So even if there are risks, that we don't know about, we can't be left behind.
I think that's a big part of it. But the problem is, as soon as you hit a major roadblock, you suddenly have to go. It's like one step forward, 2 steps back. I've been telling an AI security story for a few years now, but I tell it over and over again because every time I tell it, people are like, wow, that sounds crazy. One of the big financial services companies was piloting an AI tool. In this case, it was Microsoft Copilot, which is incredibly powerful. I use it every day. I'm building agents using Copilot Studio now. But they were piloting Copilot. And one of the things that big banks do if they want to measure the ROI of a new tool, especially one that's supposed to make people productive, you know who they give it to? The traders. Guys on the trading floor. I used to work at UBS, and UBS had the biggest trading floor in the world in Stamford, Connecticut.
Okay.
And I would go there because I was in architecture, and we were like level 3 or level 4 support. There's 2 things that were really interesting about the users that are traders at a bank. One, if they have a problem, it was like 90 seconds, and we had a human being, like a body at the desk. Because if they can't work, bank doesn't make money.
Right.
The flip side of it is if you can make them more productive, the bank makes more money. So if you ever go to one of these trading floors, you see these people have 9 monitors. Like they have the latest devices. They get all the best support for good reason.
Right.
So you want to test a productivity tool, you give it to one of your traders or a group of them, and you say, well, does it help? Does it make them more productive? Because if it does, the bank will make more money. And they gave, in this case, Microsoft Copilot, which is an incredibly powerful tool. It's a large language model, but it has access to, if you prompt Microsoft Copilot, it has access to all your emails, all of your files, everything that you collaborate with your team and other people in the company. It's incredibly powerful. You can ask, it's a search engine, but it is also a content generation tool. Like it's what we think of as a very powerful AI tool. And one of these traders asked what I think is a really interesting question. What stocks do our employees invest in? He's like, listen, the bank's got a couple 100,000 employees. These are smart people. We hire smart people. What do they invest in? Maybe that'll tell me something. Maybe when they get paid or their bonus schedules might inform, I don't know, something about the market. And this trader had been using ChatGPT, so what he expected was, like we would all expect, a few paragraphs or a few sentences, a summary of some data or some analysis. Somebody's done this report somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. Or maybe Copilot's smart enough to figure it out and do this for me because I've seen some pretty impressive output from some of these AI tools. So when he asked what stocks do our employees invest in, he got, instead of a couple of paragraphs of text, he got a big table. And in this table were names and social security numbers and account numbers and positions of employee 401ks. That is the reaction every single time I told this.
I was really afraid you were going there. Go on.
And what's interesting is it could have been a hallucination. It could have been, sometimes because these tools are designed to give you an output that looks real or looks useful, but it didn't matter because they immediately had to shut it off. I learned of this story from their vice president of their modern workforce, whose job it was her job to deploy these tools and measure their value. And she said, this is a privacy nightmare. Like we could get sued out of business. Right. I told this story to architects that really understand how these large language models and these AI assistants work. And they kind of pushed back. They challenged me a little bit. They said, Copilot doesn't punch holes through access controls or systems. It doesn't give you access to information that you don't have access to. It's not going to punch a hole through your employee retirement plan system and tell you that's not how it works. And I said, I know. Because in this case, somebody on their compensation team had created a spreadsheet of employee 401k information, and she had saved it at a team site, which is exactly what she was supposed to do. And she clicked the share button, which is exactly what you're supposed to do. Frictionless collaboration. We work from anywhere, from any device. We share with each other. And she didn't share it with everybody. She just shared it with people on her team. It was a distribution list or a group or something. The problem is, inside that group was an entity in Microsoft 365 called Everyone Except External Users, which is a fancy way of saying when she clicked that link to share it with what she thought was a small number of people, she opened it up to everybody. Not her fault. Right? The group that she was sharing with had just been misconfigured. It could have happened years ago. Who knows? What was interesting when we talk about risk, because we're at RSAC, cybersecurity is about risk. It's about risk management, right? I work for a software company. We sell software to help others manage and mitigate the risk to get to security outcomes. Risk is, when you break it down, it's a factor of two things. What's the impact of something happening, right? The impact of loss. Well, and also what's the likelihood of it happening? That spreadsheet existed. It was in a team site somewhere. It was open to everybody. But up until you gave someone Copilot, in order to find it and see it, somebody would have had to go looking for it, kind of digging through this Byzantine morass of SharePoint sites and files. Never happened. Until you gave someone the greatest information retrieval tool in the history of mankind. Right?
That's what Copilot does best.
That's what Copilot does. That's what AI does best. AI leverages data in ways that were both faster and more scalable than we've ever seen. But it means, this is what I say, that what stops companies, one of the things that stops companies from leveraging these tools is the fact that they struggle to secure their data. And now they struggle to secure the tools and the models and the agents and the code libraries specifically. And then the bad guys are using these tools too as well. Imagine that one of the users at this bank got phished. It has nothing to do with AI until the identity that they have now taken over has access to Copilot or has access to agents. Or what happens when I phish an agent? Like, these tools directly access data. The era of applications, even web applications, having interfaces with specific controls is going away. 5 years from now, you're not going to log into a web browser to access this application, then another page for this application, and then you're just going to ask an agent to do something, and it's going to directly access all this data, which means the underlying data security and the security of the data itself, the infrastructure, and the agents is really all that matters. Everything else is just noise. So companies want to move quickly. They want to outpace the competition, or they don't want to be outpaced. But I mean, we're at a security conference. The security people realize there are new risks, or it's old risks at a completely new order of magnitude. And the companies that succeed are the ones that, from a security perspective, I don't even like using the word governance because governance is just intent. They actually secure things and they get to outcomes. Outcomes are what matter. Can you measure risk and reduce it and prove that you did it? Can you minimize how long it takes to detect and respond to a threat, even if that threat is completely agentic and completely automated? Not everybody can. The ones that can are going to win.
So let's bring it home together then. I mean, what is your guidance for the folks who are anxious about this? What sort of advice are you giving the folks you interact with, ways to head forward safely?
I help people articulate to themselves and to their peers what successful outcomes are. And what I mean by that is, in Word RSAC, you go down to that expo floor, there are dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of tools. Most of them do one thing. If they do it well, they do one thing, and that's provide visibility and discovery. There are a lot of tools out there that are very good at showing you things that maybe you didn't know, which sounds great, because if you ask security leaders what keeps them up at night or what their primary goal is, they'll say things like, it's the unknown unknowns. It's not the problems that I know about, I can fix those. It's the problems that I don't know about that's going to kill me. But where I try to help leaders think is, okay, let's look at the chessboard. You do discovery, that's move number 1. What are moves number 2, 3, and 4? And moves 2, 3, and 4 are, once you've done discovery, you need to address findings. And if the remediation or if you can't go from observability to remediation or from finding to fixing, we're going to be back in the same place as you were last year. Or you're not going to move. You're just going to have a bunch of findings that you don't have the people to address, even if you want to. And your adversaries are going to move more quickly than you. So that's step 2. And then step 3 is you can't just discover problems. You need to monitor all of the behavior, and you need to do it usefully. Everybody's drowning in noise. Alert fatigue is a real thing. Findings fatigue are a real thing. But in security, context is everything, because I don't want to just log everything. I want to log things with context, like what data is sensitive and how is it being used and who and what, because it's all the non-human identities. It's NHIs that we're worried about these days, the agents. What are they actually doing? And agents don't just interact with data, they interact with other agents, and they interact with code libraries and MCP servers. There's all these things that you need to monitor effectively. But if you've got all of the right context, you've got context of identity, you've got context of behavior, you've got context of access, you've got context of the underlying data, all of that context means you can minimize how long it takes to detect and respond to even an issue. It doesn't necessarily need to be a threat. That 401k example, that wasn't an insider threat. That wasn't an outside attack. It was somebody just trying to do their job. That's what organizations really want to be able to address. And then step 4, like move 4 on the chessboard. Can you prove you did it? Everybody's got a boss. Can you say, here's what we were trying to do, here's what we accomplished, here's how we measured success, and here's what we're going to do next? If you meet a CISO, you probably meet as many as I do. Right?
A few.
You met a few. And you tell them, listen, I'm going to help you measure risk and reduce it, detect and respond to threats quickly, prove that you did it. What CISO's going to do, they're going to be a hero. They're going to do an amazing, amazing job. So listen, it's self-serving. I work for a security vendor. Like, we make software. We help other people solve these problems. But however they're doing it, if they're not thinking in terms of outcomes, they're always going to be behind.
All right, Brian, thanks so much for taking the time for us. I appreciate it.
I really appreciate the time. This has been great. Thank you.
All right. That's Brian Vecci, Field CTO at Varonis.
Now's the time to save on new carpet at the Home Depot. Receive 10% off your total carpet project and 12 months special financing. Plus, we'll measure your space for free. Choose from a variety of stylish, on-trend options fit for everyday life. With LifeProof with pet-proof technology, Home Decorators Collection, and Traffic Master carpets. Save 10% and get 12 months special financing now at the Home Depot. Offer valid April 16th through May 3rd, 2026. Exclusions apply. For licenses, see homedepot.com/license numbers.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
And finally, a new website, malice.sh, offers for a modest fee with a straight face to liberate software from its licenses by using AI to recreate functionally identical versions without the legal baggage. It is both satire and, inconveniently, a real business that actually delivers clean room-style rewrites, inspired by the classic IBM BIOS cloning playbook, now automated at machine speed. Its creators say the point was to make the threat tangible, not theoretical, and the joke lands because it works. The project highlights a growing tension in open source. AI can now reproduce software faster than communities can maintain it, raising awkward questions about attribution, ethics, and sustainability. Critics warn these rewrites strip away the invisible infrastructure of open source, maintenance, security fixes, and shared stewardship. In that sense, Malice is less a prank than a proof of concept, and possibly a preview. And that's the CyberWire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily briefing at thecyberwire.com. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing world of cybersecurity. If you like our show, please share a rating and review in your favorite podcast app. Please also fill out the survey in the show notes or send an email to cyberwire@n2k.com. N2K's lead producer is Liz Stokes. were mixed by Trey Hester with original music and sound design by Elliot Peltzman. Our contributing host is Maria Vermazis. Our executive producer is Jennifer Iben. Peter Kilpie is our publisher, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
You can't reason with the sun. Trust us, we've tried. This summer, it's time to put that angry ball of fire on mute. Columbia's OmniShade technology is engineered to protect you from the sun's harsh rays that can burn and damage your skin. The sun is relentless, but so is our gear. Level up your summer at Columbia.com to spend more time outside and less time slathering on aloe lotion. You're welcome. Columbia, engineered for whatever.